Can everyone hear me all right? Good. So I'm Joe Conway. I'm from AWS, as was just said. I'm also, I've been around the Postgres community now for more years than I probably should admit, since like 1998, so something like 27, 28 years. I'm one of the Postgres committers. I'm on the sysadmin team that maintains the infrastructure. And my team our team, I shouldn't call it my team, our team at Amazon does the upstream Postgres contribution. So the committers that are part of AWS and the other contributors to the upstream code are all gathered on our one team. So I'm just going to start. This slide deck is actually a 1-hour slide deck. I had to cut down to 15 minutes. So wish me luck. I'm going to give you a very brief history of the Postgres project to start, and then I'll talk quickly about how the community is organized, and then a bit about how people contribute, and then at the end I'll just talk specifically about some of the things AWS has done to contribute in the last few years. So originally Postgres was started at University of California, Berkeley. There was a Professor Stonebreaker. I don't know how many people have heard of Professor Stonebreaker here? Okay, he's kind of famous in the database land. He actually started a project called Ingress first, and then Postgres the name was Post-Ingress. So they come up with Postgres based on the fact that this was a follow-on project. And it was meant to be an object relational database, which basically meant it was a database that you could extend. And originally, it used a language called PostgreSQL because at the time, this was 1986, there really was no, I think SQL language had been kind of designed at that point, but the first really popular standard for SQL was in 1992. So at the time, it was a different language. And Postgres has spawned a lot of databases, including some very successful commercial ones. In 1994, 1995 timeframe, again at the University of California, Berkeley, a couple of grad students, Andrew Yu, Jolly Chen, did the conversion from PostgreSQL to SQL and kind of changed the license in a way that was more liberal. And then we basically had what we call PostgreSQL at that point, although the open source project started in 1996. So the Postgres itself, Postgres open source project, will be 30 years old actually in July of this year. And so that's really the start of what people generally call the Postgres Global Development Group, or PGDG, you'll hear it called sometimes. And that sounds like, you know, an impressive organization, but the reality is PGDG is really just a name for the community because that is not an actual legal entity. Okay, so this slide I actually got from Letitia Avro. She gave me permission to share it. I like this slide because of the way it depicts the community. Kind of at the center of the community is the core team. You can think of the core team as kind of like the board of directors. Around that are the committers. There are 31 committers in the world. They're the people who have read-write access to the Postgres Git repository. And they're also kind of the principals of the community in that a lot of the decisions are kind of outsourced by the core group to the committers and to other teams in the community. Around that, we've got other people that are developing Postgres, submitting patches, reviewing patches, doing things like translations. And then there's the larger community. Everyone here is at a Postgres conference, so you are part of the Postgres community. There's also user groups, and there's other forms of advocacy. There's the teams that, you know, put on these conferences and teach people and support Postgres. So as far as contribution goes, you know, the obvious one is code. Everyone thinks of when you're contributing to an open source project, you contribute code. And of course, that's very important. Postgres wouldn't exist without it. But you can see it by this list. There's a whole bunch of other ways that people can and do contribute. There are many forms of governance. There's the core team. There's also what the committers do. But there are all of these nonprofits that are around the world. There's PGEU. There's Postgres US. There's the nonprofit here. There's PGCA. And they all have a role to play in the community, and they're all contributing to the success of the community. All the people that are here speaking, very important. And then there are other smaller ways. There are people who just provide support on the mailing list, on the general mailing list, for instance. By the way, I don't have a time over here, so I don't know how much time I have left. As far as categories of contributors, there is a page on the Postgres website called the Contributor Profiles. Not necessarily the best name, and we might actually change that. But on there, it kind of lists the people that have been officially recognized by the community, and they kind of fall into a few main groups. There's the core team. There's a separate page for the sysadmin team that manages all of the infrastructure for the project. There's a page for the major nonprofits, including PGCA, with a link to their website. And there's also a page, 10 minutes left? 5 minutes left? Okay. Yeah, I used more time than I thought. There's a page that lists all the committers. And then the profiles page lists the major contributors and the significant contributors, as well as people who have been around in the past and have kind of, as we like to think of it, retired. So they're no longer active part of the community, but we still leave them up being recognized for what they did in the past. The core team is made up of 7 members. I'm not going to read this for you, but the point I want to make here is I've listed the companies they work for, and a big part of the ethos of the community is no one company should dominate the project. And you can see here the core team has 7 people representing 6 different companies. And then the sysadmin team, very similar. The committers, there are 31 total committers. Right now, these days, they're grouped largely at 3 companies, AWS, EDB, and Microsoft, and then the rest are kind of scattered amongst a bunch of other companies. Security team, similar, there's 18 people on it, 6 of them from EDB, 3 from AWS, and then everyone else coming from a different company. And then the contributors committee, which I'm on, is the committee that actually does the official recognition on the Postgres website. And again, representing 4 separate companies with 4 people. So AWS, why do we contribute? Well, we contribute because AWS has these things we call our leadership principles, and the number 1 leadership principle is customer obsession. And by having all of these people contributing to the project, we can deliver impact on behalf of our customers directly. So that's kind of the big thing. We can also think big about what are the features they need that don't exist in Postgres today, and we can look out a year, 2 years, 3 years, and try and get those big projects done. And also because AWS uses a lot of Postgres and has a responsibility to give back. So in terms of who's on the team, there's a lot of overlap here, so these are not all individuals. These are just kind of categories of the people on the team, but we've got 8 committers. We've got 2 sysadmin team members, 3 security team members. 11 people are listed as major contributors and so on. We also have people that specialize in important areas around the project, like the maintainer of the JDBC driver, the ODBC driver, PG hint plan, which is a very popular extension. Recent contributions, in Postgres 18, skip scan was done by Peter Gagan on our team, and we contributed to all of these other features that are in 18. And these are some ongoing efforts that we have. Hopefully some of these will get into 19, probably some of them won't make it until 20 or beyond. And then as far as kind of metrics, Amazon is big on metrics. So how have we done in terms of our contribution over the last few releases? You can see as of Postgres 15, it was quite low. The team was formed just about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and you can see we ramped up pretty quickly, and now we're, as far as the number of features that are listed on the major releases, how many of our people have been credited with authorship. And then as far as commits during the development cycle, this is a similar graph. So these are obviously just our committers. And then this is organized a little differently. You know, one of the things I like to say is, in the US, I don't know how common it is here, but in the US, sometimes you'll hear a phrase, lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? So the point is, with statistics, you can tell many different stories the way you want to tell them. It's the way how you represent the data. So this is another representation of the data. This one is the annual commit percentage by org, but it is specifically done annually. So this is 2024 and 2025 instead of looking at a particular release. And you can see Amazon, at least by my calculations, in those 2 years has been the #1 org that has contributed based on that specific metric. And with that, I think I finished just right on time, hopefully.